Hi everyone, my name is Simon and today I'll be talking about the importance of gender to our understanding of education. For those of you accidentally stumbling upon this as you search YouTube, this is a presentation for a unit Sociology 134 at Murdoch University. Now let's begin this presentation by breaking down the topic I've chosen to talk about today, the importance of gender to our understanding of education. For me to fully address this subject, first I have to ask a few questions. Number one, is gender important in education? How do we ensure its importance? I hope that these next two questions can help us answer the first. Do people experience gender in education everywhere? And if so, do they experience it in the same way? If we look at some examples, we should be able to see that it's a pan-national issue with different experiences across the globe. Next, we can ask how we can academically examine gender in education. This should show us some of the various methods that theorists have used to interact with the topic at hand. So is gender important? Well, let's see a couple of benchmarks to test whether it is or not. First, if gender affects education across the world, then yes. Second, if gender in education occurs in ways that present different issues in each of our examples, then again, yes, it's definitely an important topic. Finally, if people have dedicated their academic capacities to trying to understand the issue through different perspectives, then we should absolutely acknowledge the importance of understanding gender in education. Okay, the first place I'd like to investigate gender's application to education is Bangladesh. Here, gender plays a crucial role in producing a gap between the experiences of boys and girls. Gender has a negative effect on girls from both an internal and external influence on education. Girls experience poorer quality learning and have much higher dropout rates. This may be because of the incredibly high rate of teenage marriage that is traditional for girls in Bangladesh. Early marriage means competing responsibilities and a loss of personal rights, with 48% of married women in one study saying that any decisions regarding their health fell entirely in the hands of their husbands. Now we move to Turkey, and here we see a similar issue. Girls are underperforming when compared to boys in education. This is a particularly odd phenomenon in the developed world, as the case is often the other way around. One suggestion for why girls are performing poorer than boys may be the patriarchal culture endemic to Turkey. Another issue may be that girls are being underrepresented in the classroom, and as such may have less power in determining how well they perform. Our third national examination takes us home to Australia, where we see a case that is a far more classic one for the modern world. Statistically speaking, a trend of poorer performances by boys in schools has been growing since the late 1980s, with girls' abilities shining through. However, this doesn't entirely speak to the greater cultural implications of gender upon people in the educational system, with boys finding it easier to apply what they learn practically with more job opportunities in the outside world. Some scholars believe that the reason for poor male marks might be that boys are underrepresented in the classroom, similar to the issue of girls in Turkey. On the other hand, the internal mechanisms of the working classroom may still favour boys in aspects outside of performance scores, with boys dominating discussions, the achievements of girls going underappreciated due to poorer self-esteem, both genders underestimating the abilities of girls, greater interruptions being had for girls by teachers, and the direction of attention towards male class members to achieve social order in education. As we move to the United Kingdom with our last case study, we see the issue of gender in education become even more complicated as it is contrasted with economics and class. Political bodies have introduced the North-South learning policies, which are a series of changes to the learning systems of the poorer northern cities of the UK to make them perform more like the southern cities. The problem with the wide net of changes is that it has been criticised as not acknowledging the problems of gender bias in education. Women are being minimally represented, and instead, the focus of the changes has been placed on trying to fix the economic issues of the North, which unfortunately takes focus away from the complexities of gender in education. Now that we've examined just how far-reaching gender in education around the world truly is, we can look at how academics begin to address the issue. These are 4 fields of research that take a position on the topic of gender in education in a variety of ways. First, liberal feminism examines the internal structure of the educational system, looking at the differences of performance between boys and girls, the experiences of each group, and the level of representation for each gender. Second, critical feminism looks at the external workings of gender in education. Is there the same opportunities for gender to apply their learned skills outside of the classroom? Do institutions fully represent both genders appropriately? Third, post-structuralist feminism examines the issue of gender in education through the lenses of dominance, resistance, and discourse. Who in the oppositional relationship of boys and girls is doing better, and how do the two groups discuss this difference? Finally, interactionalism aims to examine gender in education as a shared experience. What commonalities do all genders have, and how does gender affect the experiences of everyone? Alright, so now we can try to make some conclusions from what I've covered here so far. First things first, is gender in education important? Yes, absolutely. It ticks all 3 of the criteria we put down at the start. Gender in education is a global issue, is experienced around the world in different ways, and can be addressed through various different academic viewpoints. Now we understand how important it is to our comprehension. What is the best way to go about fully acknowledging it in its multifaceted intricacies? Well, I put it to you, dear listener, that the best way to understand gender in education is through treating it as the complex beast it is, and examining it from as many different fields as possible, trying to build upon a well-rounded knowledge of the subject. And that's my presentation. Here are my references. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'd love to read any comments you have below.